about 64 is when we opened the office of Studio Bendersdorf in Chicago to represent them, in, as well as at Goldman Studios in Los Angeles. And as soon as we started the offices in the U.S., I got a phone call and got contacted by Tony Lazzarino of X-15 fame, and got introduced to the picture the 16th of December, or the first title of it. His project had about 3 titles as we went along, but the 16th of December, The Final Guns, The True Story, The Battle of the Bulge, and such. But anyway, he was always expanding his documentary drama. Was financed initially by Columbia Pictures. And he needed more money and came to us to see if our studio in Germany would do part of the financing, or give him the equipment and the production help he needed to document the details of the Battle of the Bulge. He was a military historian and very heavily into the details of specifically the Battle of the Bulge. I mean, he did his homework. He was very articulate. And I was, because of my German language knowledge, I was engaged not only as a associate producer, but also translator and kind of a babysitter or companion to General Hasso von Manteuffel, who was on the project from the German side. And everything I talked to and my conversations with General von Manteuffel always add a little information that Lazzarino wanted about the specifics of the Battle of the Bulge. He was very detailed-oriented, which eventually led us to an interview with the late Admiral Dönitz, commander of the German U-boat fleet, and as I later found out, the last Fuhrer of the German Reich, really. Now, remember, I was about 28, 29 years old at the time, so it was not that I knew a lot about World War II. I was too young to remember what happened over there, right during the end of the war and right after the war. But nevertheless, it was an intriguing project when I heard that I had to contact Admiral Dönitz. That was kind of not only strange, but exciting. And so we arranged a meeting with my studio partner, Peter Fink, General von Manteuffel, Tony Lazzarino, and a group of cameramen and reporters that were following us around at the time. And Dönitz had a house in Bergedorf, Germany. So we arrived, and he was prepared for us. He had a beautiful cocktail table all decked out with German pastries and amenities, tea, coffee, etc. And I don't know if it was his wife or his maid or whoever was helping out. And Dönitz was seated next to me on his couch, and I was the official translator. General Manteuffel on my left, Lazzarino across from Dönitz. And then we went through about half hour of casual conversation and casual questions, which didn't irritate anybody, or just general information, until it came to one magic moment where Lazzarino, I think he made a mistake or didn't get into intentionally when he asked Admiral Dönitz what exactly did he know about the details of the concentration camps. Well, I translated everything that I was given in English to Dönitz, sitting right next to him. Well, at that moment when I asked that question, his face went beet red. He grabbed his book, which he had written a couple of years earlier, the book Donuts, was sitting at the couch, and he slammed it down on the cocktail table, and all the pastry and coffee went flying. And he said, "How dare you ask that question?" He says, "Haven't you read my book?" In a little stronger words than that. Well, that was probably the most embarrassing moment in my life, because his anger was directed at me because I had to ask the question. So it took a bit of a while to calm down and get things back to normal after Tony Lazarini apologized profusely. That it was a matter of he just had to ask a bunch of questions, and well, we got over it, but it was quite an experience for me. And sitting right next to those two characters, the general and the admiral, and having to take the flak for that question, it was somewhat embarrassing. Even Montalvo was very embarrassed. Nevertheless, after the thing was over, everybody calmed down. Lazzarino apologized, and we ended up taking a walk down the garden path. Donuts had a beautiful garden with walks through the flower beds, etc. So I think that was the last footage that I recall that Lazzarino got of everybody involved, including Donuts, Montalvo, my studio partner, Peter Fink, and myself, walking down the garden path. And we were wondering today what happened to that footage and where it might be. And my hunch is that probably the German archives probably must have something on that, because the German news crew or cameraman that shot it should have gone right to the laboratory in Hamburg, which we used. And there was later, I heard that Lazzarino's footage of the entire production of the final guns was at Warner Brothers, which I can't confirm. I wouldn't know how it got there. But it's got to be around someplace, and it's probably one heck of a documentary. Lazzarino was an amazing character. He was a bit of a megalomaniac. He always wanted to go bigger and bigger with everything he did. But he was an incredible researcher and historian. He wanted every single little detail of the Battle of the Bulge explained and clarified. And he had incredible contacts, because I met more generals than I ever dreamed of meeting. Everything, I mean, including Eisenhower and McAuliffe, General Clark, Omar Bradley. And what the beautiful thing was is he brought the two biggest enemies during World War II at the Battle of the Bulge, the Americans and Germans. He brought these adversaries together at the table, which is incredible, and I don't think too many people know about that. So that's, I started getting the interest in World War II after that project, and about a couple of years ago, a friend of mine in Maryland, Annapolis, Maryland, and I wrote another screenplay called The Prussian, which is getting a good looking over by a major distribution source in Hollywood right now. We're trying to prep the production, get a budget together, and start looking into it. So it happens to be a World War II story that took place in the Ukraine, which is very timely today, of course. And it's about a aristocratic Prussian German general who never really liked or went along with any of Hitler's ideas. And who escaped execution by the Gestapo and ended up in a battle in the Ukraine. And it's a story-driven, character-driven World War II story, which I think has a lot to offer historically and truth-wise about Prussian generals, many of which, of course, were executed by Hitler, who didn't like the aristocratic the Prussian generals too much. Anyway, so we're working on the preparation of it, finding location. I'm hoping to bring this picture into Wisconsin if it's all possible. But we'll see. We'll go to work on it and keep at it until it becomes realization. In today's Hollywood, you get a lot of pictures in preparation, but very few of them can be brought to fruition. So hopefully we can do it, and hopefully we can do it in Wisconsin. So I got to get in touch with somebody at Fort McCoy and see if that's available. That's one.